How is the expression of the oppression of the family upon the individual expressed in the heroes of romantic writing? Can you guess it? Probably not. Who are the heroes of romantic writing? I've already talked about it to some degree. Children? Criminals? Mad women? Natives? But above all, orphans. Orphans grow up without families. They have to interpret their own nature. Society's not going to do it for them. They will have to bring themselves up. That becomes the model of the best form of heroism, is for you to think of yourself as having no social conditioning upon yourself. You're going to condition yourself. You're going to follow the cries of your heart, the desires of your innermost being, and you're going to ignore what your friends, your family, your church, your society, whatever says to you, because by doing so, you're going to be doing good and fighting against evil. And it's not without reason that right in this period, for the first time in the entirety of human history, we get the idea that to be an orphan is a blessed state of affairs. And the heroes of fiction hereafter are almost without exception orphans. In scriptural times, to be an orphan is to be pitied, and the church should look after the widows and the orphans. Their life is very hard. They're largely open to the predations of others. They're vulnerable. They can't look after themselves. They have no father. They have no family. Here it's pushed the other way. By the way, Rousseau had 5 children out of wedlock with different women, and he put them all in an orphanage. He was so committed to the ideal of the oppression. Maybe he was just couldn't be bothered looking after the kids, but you find that more and more people are having children out of marriage, because marriage becomes a socializing, oppressive institution. It's an institution. Institutions are all evil, because they socialize and they oppress our native goodness and our feelings. But we notice that more and more people not only have children, but give them to orphanages. By choice. Rousseau certainly did. At any rate, where do we note this in literature? Well, as I say, in this period we will find some in Wordsworth and others, Byron, over and over in the Romantic writers, orphans are the heroes. Well, so are they in Charles Dickens' works. If you know Dickens at all, the heroes are almost always orphans. By the way, some of the writers are themselves also orphaned, which might explain why their heroes are orphans. They're sort of reflecting on themselves, fighting against the world. But if it's not just them, it becomes almost it's such a strong pattern that you have to think there's something else going on here. And what's going on here is the romantic appeal to nature, opposing and fighting against and defeating the great enemy, which is what? Society. And you can do that by being very good in yourself, or you can do that by fighting the oppressive world in which, even if you're brought up in affluence like Bruce Wayne, you can be the Dark Knight and punch it down. Because he's also an orphan, right? But so are all the comic book heroes. Right? The Marvel superheroes, they're orphans. Funny old thing, eh? So is Anne of Green Gables. Little Orphan Annie, James Bond, Harry Potter, Tolkien's works, some of Lewis's works, they're not orphans, but they're effectively orphaned, the children in Narnia. It becomes such a commonplace in writing that we don't even notice that the kids don't have any parents. They have to bring themselves up. Then it becomes an ideal in the educational system that children should be able to determine their own path in life, and the parents are an obstacle to that education. The schools are there to help the kids develop their own identity without the oppressive parents meddling in it. So the state, who accepts this romantic view of nature, thinks that it's there to deliver them from itself. Because this is a public system. It's the state system. Now the state has become so romantic in its sensibilities that it's creating kids to deliver them from society, of which it is the primary vehicle for it. How is this even possible? Well, it's not possible, but in our day, it's just the state sides with the child against the parents. It's just an anti-family agenda. Make any sense? But note the pattern of the orphan as hero. And it's presented almost as a moral crusade, and it is a moral crusade. It's a moral crusade of nature against society. So there's an explanation for the fall then. And how does the fall happen then? We know how Milton suggests it, how the Bible recounts it. It is a eating of the forbidden fruit by God. That's how the original sin was begotten. The Romantics don't believe that, because they think that not only is nature good, our nature is fundamentally good. They think human nature is fundamentally good. Your nature. You're a good person. I'm a good person. I'm just misunderstood. Or I've been mistreated, but I'm fundamentally a good person. That view of human nature is heretical, by the way. You're not fundamentally good. I think that the doctrine of original sin is the only doctrine of the church which is empirically verifiable. You can see it in babies. They hit each over the head, and they intend violence. They intend to kill the other. If they were stronger, they would do it. They're just not physically able to do it, but they'll whack you and they'll punch you in the nose as well. Little babies. Pop! You think, oh, ow, that hurt. Oh, isn't he cute? He didn't really mean to do it. Oh, yes, he did. Look at the face. He would have punched you right in the nose. If he were stronger, you would punch him back, but he's a little baby, so you don't. But the sin is in human nature already. But that's not the story we tell about ourselves. The story we tell about ourselves is that actually we're very good. And if we do anything wrong, it's somebody else's fault. There you go. That's the romantic narrative right there. We have been corrupted by other people's actions. All of the sins that we do commit, if we commit them, and we will admit that we do them, are for some other reason. And then they will appeal to the root causes of that action, which would all be addressed if, again, we took care of the root causes of that, which are almost always material. And thus Marxism arises. So since my marker doesn't even work, I'll just do the big reveal and look at Blake's wonderful engraving. Blake was an engraver by profession.